Alright, hey guys, what's going on? This is Space here. So, Creed 2 was recently released, and I'm a big fan of the Rocky series, so I figured, hey, now is the perfect time to do a ranking of all of the Rocky movies. So that's exactly what we're here to do today. Alright, so, fair warning, this video will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen any of the Rocky movies, do not watch this video, so I'll be going into spoilers for pretty much all of them. Now, I will probably go into spoilers with Creed, but for Creed 2, since it's the most recent one, I'll go through it in a non-spoiler way, but then I'll also include spoilers. So when I come to that, when I come to the spoilers, I'll put up a timestamp so you can skip ahead and not see the spoilers, or hear the spoilers, I guess. Alright, so without further ado, let's do this thing. Alright. Alright, so at number 8 we have Rocky 5. Now personally I do like this movie, but I feel like it's definitely the weakest of the series. I like how it takes place right after Rocky 4, even though it's been like 5 or so years since Rocky 4 was released when this came out. But that's alright, so they still follow up with that. And it starts off with Rocky right after the fight against Ivan Drago, and it's obvious that he's suffered a lot of damage. And it's interesting to see how he's been damaged, of course, before, but he hasn't been damaged this much, so it really affects him psychologically. Like, he sees Ivan sometimes in his mind, which I thought was pretty interesting. So yeah, I do like that aspect of the film, that Ivan really affected him, and he really can't box really anymore, you know, or else he'll get, like, severely hurt. So now he gets this kid named Tommy Gunn, and he trains him. This is the very first time we get to see the mentor Rocky. We get to see him later in the Creed movies, but for now this is the very first time we see mentor Rocky. I do kind of like how Rocky sees Tommy as like his quote-unquote second chance. He really doesn't focus on Robert, his son, too much, which I thought worked pretty well. And Rocky gets so obsessed that he starts spending less and less time with his family, but he finally snaps out of it, which is great. You know, that nice resolution where he's like, oh, I messed up. So, yeah, that was pretty good. Tommy himself, I liked him, and then eventually when he becomes the villain, you know, you just like lose all liking to him. But even when I rewatch this, like, you know what, Tommy's pretty cool. Then you like still have the part where you're, oh, but he does have this side. And the movie ends with a street fight. Now I noticed that people don't really like this too much. They prefer like the boxing match at the end of the movie. But I thought this was pretty cool. It's a very unique way to wrap up a Rocky movie, because you don't really see any street fighting in the movies. So this is the very first time you see that. And yeah, it's interesting, you know, but without their gloves though, it's kind of silly, because, you know, at really heavyweights, if you like try to fight him with his gloves off, he'd probably knock you out really fast, because I mean, with the gloves, that's protection, you know, it takes a little more time with the gloves, but without the gloves, it's just like freaking like a rock punching you, man. So not 100% accurate or realistic, but that's okay. It still makes for a pretty good fight, you know, and of course Rocky wins at the end. And I do like another aspect that I thought was really good about this, probably the best part of this movie, is the return of Mickey. You know, Mickey dies in Rocky 3, but he comes back for this. You know, it's not like a zombie or whatever, you know, it's just like a memory. Like, there's the memory of Rocky getting the necklace from him in the gym. That's a really moving scene, probably the best scene in the movie. It's great. And yeah, that's definitely high notes for that movie. And the rest of it's pretty good. You know, the soundtrack is it's kind of 90s rap and stuff, so it's And yeah, the story is pretty good. You know, it's just not my favorites, but I still enjoy it. Alright, so now we're going to move on to number 7. Now this one was kind of hard to choose between Rocky 4 and Rocky 3, but I decided to go with Rocky 4. So I really do enjoy this one, and almost at times I do enjoy it more than the third one, but really the fourth one doesn't have a lot of substance to it. You know, you've got the fights between Ivan and Creed, which was good. You know, it's sad to see that Apollo Creed died, because he was one of my favorite characters. And I really like the friendship that builds between Rocky and Apollo, you know, and you really get to see it shine in 4, and that's of course why Rocky goes up against Ivan. So it really makes for good motivation for Rocky. You know, this is a redemption revenge story. You know, Rocky wants revenge for his friend. So, but most of this movie is basically just training montages and stuff. It's a lot of music and stuff. The music in this is really great. It's probably one of the best soundtracks out of the entire series. It's got some really great music to it. And the fights are good too, but yeah, for the most part, it doesn't have too much substance. It's pretty short. It's one of the shortest Rocky movies. I think it might actually be the shortest Rocky movie, but you know, the challenger, Ivan, is a really good character, you know. He's just silent and stoic, but he's like really strong and stuff. He's like almost like a machine, you know. He does pose a great challenge to Rocky since he's such a hard hitter and stuff, and like I said in the before with 5, no one has hit Rocky quite like that, you know, so it really broke him. So yeah, pretty good challenger. Overall, it's a fun movie, not really too much substance, but still good. Alright, at number 6, as you could probably predict, is Rocky 3. Now, this one definitely does have more substance. The first time I watched it, I thought it didn't have quite as much substance, but then when I rewatched it, I was like, oh yeah, this movie does have a lot more substance, especially when compared to number 4. It's not as good as the 2 originals, but it's still pretty good. Clubber Lang is an alright challenger. I didn't really like him too much. I thought he was alright. And Mickey is still in it too, so you still get to see him. And you also get to see the bond between Apollo and Rocky grow in this movie. That part was amazing. Towards the end, when Rocky feels defeated, he goes to Apollo and he asks for his help, and he trains him. So that was really great. And the block with Rocky too, when Mick dies, you know, he gets this sort of mental block with boxing. You know, he feels like he can't do it anymore, but then you know he overcomes it, and yeah, it's great. There are some silly parts like the Hulk Hogan part. I thought that was really silly, but you know, still kind of fun. But I do like the fact that Clubber is just kind of like there. He's like trying to egg him on, and eventually Rocky gets to fight him. And this is like the first time you get to see Rocky like absolutely lose, you know? Before, with the first one, you know, we see him beat up Apollo, and he does lose the match, but he pretty much won. And of course in Rocky 2 he wins. So this is the first time you actually get to see him like lose, and he has to overcome that. So I thought that was really good, you know, good motivation and stuff. Especially like seeing Mickey's death, you know, that was one of the saddest moments in the series. That and Apollo's death. You know, but yeah, you know, good stuff, pretty good. The soundtrack is also pretty darn good too. You've got Eye of the Tiger appears in this movie, and yeah, I do love the way it ends too. Like they got a match between Apollo and Rocky, and they never say who won. So I thought that was really good. All right, next up with number 5, we have Creed. So this movie blew me away when I saw it, and I still think it's absolutely amazing. Really well done. And such an interesting idea too. It's kind of like the premise of Rocky 5, where Rocky is now a mentor, but this time you have, instead of just some random guy off the street, you have Apollo Creed's son. An interesting thing about Adonis is that he was born after Rocky 4, so he's an illegitimate son, and you know, eventually he finds out he's a Creed, you know, he's related to Apollo Creed, that's his father, and he wants to make it on his own, but eventually he has to accept that he is a Creed, you know, he has to accept the name in order to get into a fight. And yeah, it really does a good job of setting up some new characters. Like you've got Adonis, who I thought was an amazing character, really awesome and really well acted by Michael B. Jordan. And you also have Bianca, his girlfriend, which I thought was an awesome character as well. She's a really interesting character too. She's definitely a very unique character to the Rocky series. You know, she has progressive hearing loss, so eventually she's gonna go deaf. But she really likes making music, so you know she does it while she can. And yeah, just such an awesome character. And then you have Rocky himself, who at first is hesitant to train Adonis, but eventually he goes for it. And yeah, it's such a great moment when he just like finds like, alright, I'll train you. It was definitely great seeing Rocky again, but sadly Paulie is dead, so that was sad. But at least we still have Rocky, so that's good. And yeah, overall this was a great addition to the series, and really brought some more life back into it. Alright, and at number 4 we have Creed 2. Now I do admit at times I do like this better than Rocky Balboa, but I still wanted to just put this here because I do feel like I like Rocky Balboa a little more. This was such an amazing movie though, and I went in with high hopes and high expectations, and they were met, and they were passed too. I mean, it was such a great movie. One of the best of the year, I'd say. Just so awesome. Definitely going to be on my top 10 list of favorite movies this year. And it was great seeing Ivan again, seeing what they did with his character, as well as, of course, Rocky returns. And you also get to see all of the characters that were established in Creed 2. This is definitely a more personal fight for Adonis, so that was great to see. It's like he's just putting his all in it. And yeah, there's some really surprising moments in this movie too, which was great. You know, there's like some twists and turns, so it's not just all like straight like, oh yeah, you know what's going to happen. So, alright, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about some spoilers, so feel free to skip ahead if you want to see the rest of this video. So, okay, here we go. The spoilers are starting right now. So I really did like what they did with Ivan and the challenger, his son Victor. I really thought it really was like a more well-rounded challenger than what we've usually seen before. You know, they have like some drive. You know, Ivan of course failed in Rocky 4, so now he wants his son, he wants to push his son to the limit so he can beat Adonis, so he can get back the title and bring honor to the Draco family. To get more of a better understanding of the challenger, like before with some of the other challengers you just have like, oh yeah, they just want to win and stuff, but this is like he actually has a reason. He wants to honor the Draco family and make them big name again. I like how in the end, when the fight was just going on forever, you know, he saw that his son was probably going to lose, and he didn't want him to end up like Apollo. He didn't want his son to die over this, so he stops the fight. I thought that was really good. I think that was a great character building moment. You know, it really developed his character more, made him a more caring father in the end. You know, he saw that this wasn't as important as his son's life. So I thought that was really good. Yeah, that was a great way to use Ivan's character, and he's such an awesome character. And I was glad to see that he was back. It was also interesting with his wife, how she left him. I thought that was really interesting too. Like he dishonored their family name, so she just left. That was interesting. It was cool to see her again too. I was like, wait, oh my goodness, that's her. I was like, wow, that was cool. And I'm glad to see that Rocky doesn't have cancer anymore. That was good. And the ending too, oh my goodness, that was so amazing. I was like, are we going to see Robert in this movie? It's like, and there he is. And it was the same actor from Rocky Balboa. So he was like, oh, this is so great. We got to see Rocky's grandson too. That was so amazing. And you even get to see Adonis's daughter, Amara, too. I thought that was cool. And yeah, just spending the time with the characters and stuff was great. And yeah. Alright, so that ends the spoiler section. So yeah, overall, just an amazing movie. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it. It's so good. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the next one, which is number 3, Rocky Balboa. This movie definitely saved the Rocky franchise. You know, it kind of died after 5. 5 wasn't really everyone's favorite, and even Sylvester Stallone didn't like 5, so yeah, but yeah, this movie, just such a great movie. You know, it's about Rocky wanting to go back into boxing, you know, just one more match against Mason Dixon, who before they had like this little TV like simulation thing where it's like in a game or whatever, you know, it's like an animated simulation of Rocky versus Mason Dixon, the current heavyweight champion. And that was interesting. I thought that was a unique way to, you know, get all that started and stuff, to get the ball rolling. And it does have that sort of slow burn feel that the first two have, you know, so I thought that was great. It was like a nice return to that sort of way to do the movies. It was cool seeing Robert too, and seeing like his struggles with life, you know, how he lives in Rocky's shadow and stuff. I thought that was really good. And yeah, seeing him all grown up and stuff, that was cool. And of course seeing Rocky again, without Adrian, sadly, seeing how that affects him. And he has a restaurant now, which I thought was really awesome, a great idea. And now Adrian is still in the movies, even though she's not alive in the movies, you know. But yeah, you have Adrian's restaurant. So yeah, and you even get to see Little Marie too from the first movie. I thought that was such a great way to bring back her character. Sadly, she doesn't appear in any of the other ones after this for some reason. But it was great seeing her again, you know? Yeah, nice callback to the original. And you even have Spider as well from the original. He's the very first person that Rocky fights in the first Rocky movie. So yeah, cool stuff. And of course you have Paulie too, who does such an amazing job like usual. Burt Young, amazing. Now for the challenger, you have Mason Dixon, which I feel like is definitely the weakest point of this movie. Like, he's just kind of there, honestly. And when you see him compared to, like, Sylvester Stallone's all big and stuff, you know, he's all muscular, even though he's older, but he's still pretty muscular. But then, like, with him, he's just kind of, like, not super muscular, so I thought that was really weird. But, and also, he's just kind of a weak character, you know, you don't really get too much attachment to him. That's probably the only downside to this movie, but I still really like it. It's more about Rocky than it is about Mason, so, yeah, great movie. Love it. Alright, down to the last two. You can probably already tell what the last two will be, but hey, we will still continue this video anyways. Alright, so at number 2 we have Rocky 2. Now, since Rocky lost the last one, you know, this one felt right. It felt like, hey, we've got to do this again. We've got to fight Apollo again, and we've got to beat him. And yeah, that's how it ends too, you know. Rocky wins, so that was great. This feels like almost like a necessary sequel. You know, like the first one, like a twist ending, you know. Who would have thought that Creed would have actually won instead of Rocky? But yeah, and then this one, of course, you have Rocky coming back and say, alright, I've got to beat him. And it's interesting seeing like how Adrian doesn't approve of it, so it really bothers Rocky. It doesn't make him want to fight Apollo, so he doesn't really train that hard. But eventually Adrian goes with it and he's like, alright, just do it. And he's like, alright, and then he trains super hard, and good stuff. And you get to see the birth of his son too, you know. So this is the very first movie with Robert. Of course, it's just like a little baby in this movie, but yeah, great. And of course, you get to see the return of all of your favorite characters. You know, you've got Apollo, who this time is still the quote-unquote antagonist, the challenger. You also have, of course, Paulie, Adrian, and of course even Mickey too, he's back. And yeah, such a great movie, and definitely a great follow-up to the first one. Not as good as the first one, but still pretty darn good. And last, and certainly not least, of course we have the original Rocky. Man, this movie is so amazing. It's more of a love story than like just like a straight sports boxing movie, so I thought that was really well done. It's a slow burn too, which I really like. You get to understand Rocky's character. You get to feel for him. You know, like the first hour is basically just devoted to Rocky, and like the building of the situation that will arise to eventually get Rocky to fight Apollo. You know, they like choose Rocky just out of the blue. They're like, hey, our challenger that we're going to fight is I don't know what happened to him. He's like had an accident or something. So like, hey, we got to choose someone else. So they choose Rocky, and eventually he goes for it. You know, at first he starts like, you know what, I don't want to do this, but eventually he does it. So yeah, I thought that was really well done. You know, it really carries the series for the rest of the movies. You know, as you get like all of the development from the first movie, it always carries on throughout the movies. So yeah, makes him like a really beloved character too. It really does its best to make you really like Rocky, and it does such a great job. And yeah, overall, such an amazing movie. Alright, so that was my ranking list. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And let me know what your ranking is down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.